Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today we are unpacking a massive, systemic mistake that pretty much all of us make without even realizing it. I mean, think about it. We meticulously charge our smartphones the absolute second they drop below 20%. Totally panic that we might lose connection, right? Yet we routinely let our own internal batteries hit absolute zero without a second thought. Today we're talking about the critical error of neglecting rest and renewal. It's a hugely high-stakes issue in our modern world, and honestly, the tension it creates in our daily lives is palpable. We just push and push, relentlessly ignoring the warning lights flashing on our own internal dashboards.
So let me ask you something. Why do we feel guilty for sleeping? No, seriously, I want you to really think about that for a second and reflect on your own life. Have you ever caught yourself actually apologizing for taking a quick nap? Or maybe you felt this sudden sharp sting of shame just because you slept in on a Saturday instead of, immediately jumping into a house project or clearing out your inbox. Why has a fundamental biological necessity been twisted into a moral failing in our minds? Well, this is exactly the paradox we're confronting head-on today. Okay, let's dive into Section 1, the modern hustle trap, and what it means to be working without pause. Working without pause. We've kind of been conditioned to treat ourselves like industrial machines that simply don't require any maintenance, and it keeps us trapped in this endless loop of continuous labor. We wake up, we immediately check our screens, we work, we consume, and we repeat. We're living in an environment where the default setting is always go, and the expectation, whether it's coming from our peers, our culture, or honestly, most intensely from ourselves, is that we just have to remain in a state of constant motion. There is this underlying, persistent panic that if we stop moving, even for just a moment, we'll permanently fall behind. But here's the thing. Even the most advanced machines need to be turned off and recalibrated. By working without pause, we are essentially redlining our own mental and physical engines until they inevitably break down. Now, in a truly healthy paradigm, exhaustion and achievement are entirely separate concepts, but the modern tendency forces us to falsely equate them. We actually treat sheer exhaustion like a badge of honor, like it's some required receipt that proves we've actually achieved something of value today. If you aren't completely wiped out at the end of the day, this modern trap whispers that you just didn't work hard enough. It is a highly dangerous illusion that completely conflates our suffering with our success. Which brings us to Section 2, the guilt of pausing and the emotional toll it takes on us. Just let the pure absurdity of this sink in for a minute. Feeling guilty for pausing or sleeping. We are talking about basic, non-negotiable human needs here. We need sleep to survive, to function properly, and literally to keep our brains from deteriorating. Yet somehow, the modern tendency has managed to transform these absolute necessities into sources of deep, pervasive shame. It's the invisible chain that binds us to the hustle, ensuring that even when we do physically stop, our minds are still agonizing over the fact that we aren't being productive. We're basically walking around apologizing for being human. So be brutally honest with yourself for a second. Are you equating your exhaustion with achievement? I really challenge you to identify if you're falling victim to this specific trap. Do you only feel proud of your day if you have absolutely nothing left in the tank? If the answer is yes, then you're operating under a deeply flawed system. You are trading your long-term well-being for short-term validation, and it is definitely time we look at the brilliant, sustainable alternative provided in our source material. All right, let's shift gears to Section 3, a virtuous counterpoint, shifting the paradigm. Now, what's really interesting about this is the stark contrast. We absolutely do not have to live this way. But this is the battle we face every single day. The modern tendency on the left weighs us down with guilt and exhaustion, but there's a virtuous counterpoint on the right that actively lifts us up with rest and renewal. These are two completely opposing philosophies of how to live and work. We're talking about stepping away from the frantic anxiety of the modern hustle and moving towards something much more deliberate, grounded, and ultimately way more powerful. But we have to make a conscious, intentional choice to migrate from the former to the latter. And this brings us to a beautifully powerful concept, Sabbath rest. It's defined as valuing renewal, leisure, and balance as part of a virtuous life. Notice how this isn't framed as a weakness? It's not some concession you make because you just can't handle the pressure of the modern world. No, Sabbath rest is presented as a deliberate, virtuous practice. It's actually a sign of immense wisdom and true strength to confidently command your own time and prioritize your well-being over endless, grinding labor. Our source breaks this down into 3 non-negotiable pillars of a good life. First up, renewal, actively restoring what the world takes out of you. Second is leisure, engaging in activities that bring you joy simply for the sake of the joy itself, not for any tangible output or side hustle potential. And third, balance, recognizing that labor is only one fraction of the human experience. Together, these don't detract from your life's work, they actually construct the very foundation of a virtuous, fulfilling life. Moving on to Section 4, rest as essential fuel, the actual engine of output. So the crucial point here is restorative rest. This is all about seeing renewal as essential to productivity, creativity, and virtue. And this completely dismantles the hustle trap. The trap dictates that you have to sacrifice rest to be productive, but this concept proves that you literally cannot sustain high-level productivity, deep creativity, or a virtuous life without prioritizing your own renewal. They are permanently, inextricably linked. Rest isn't the absence of work, rest is essential fuel. Let's move to this and see how it builds, because it follows a perfectly logical sequence. Step 1. It all begins with restorative rest. When you finally give your mind the space it desperately needs, Step 2 kicks in. It automatically sparks creativity. You regain the mental bandwidth to connect disparate ideas. That fresh creativity then drives true productivity, which is Step 3. You aren't just busy anymore, you're highly effective. And all of this culminates in Step 4, cultivating virtue. By honoring your limits and acting with intention, resting actually proves to be the ultimate engine for doing our absolute best work. If you take nothing else away from this explainer today, let it be this core takeaway. Renewal is essential. Period. It is not optional. It is not an occasional luxury reserved for when everything else is perfectly finished, because let's face the harsh truth, the work is never perfectly finished. Stepping away, renewing your mind and your body is the exact mechanism that actually allows you to achieve anything meaningful in the first place. I want to leave you with this final, lingering thoughts. Knowing what we know now about the insidious trap of the modern hustle and the profound, generative power of restorative rest, will you choose exhaustion or virtue? The choice is entirely yours, but it's time to change the paradigm. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Now go get some well-deserved rest,